All right, what's going on, everyone? By the way, how is the heat? Is it just me? Or was there like no heat?
There was no heat.
Yeah,
We were very cold.
me too. Okay. All right, it wasn't just me. All right, so I think my digits and I think my fingers and toes are I can feel something now. Okay, we're a little tingly before. But anyway, what do you think this person's feeling? Are they feeling good?
No.
No. No, I don't think so. Are they feeling panniculitic?
Yes.
Very panniculitic today. What kind of panniculitic?
Septal
Yes.
or
Septolobular or mixed?
It could be mixed.
mixed.
Yeah, because like
Wouldn't it
this
be
is
mixed
like
because there's some inside the fat lobules and there's also
yeah.
some in the
And
septum?
truth be told, everything is mixed to some degree. But
Hmm.
like this area is clearly lobular. This is
Yeah.
clearly in the septa. This is mixed. As mixed can be. So we have mixed septolobular panniculitis. Okay. What kind of cells do we
Definitely lymphocytic.
Yeah, predominantly lymphocytic. Any lipomembranous change?
Doesn't seem like it.
Like here? Or here?
Yeah, there's some thickening,
Yeah.
or would you call that hyalinization?
Yeah, yeah, lipomembranous. This is not a normal membrane for an adipocyte. So yes, there's lipomembranous change. And we also have some other stuff going on. Is it just the septolobular panniculitis or are other things inflamed?
The dermis, like the near the dermal epidermal
Yeah,
junction.
let's see.
And
What
these
else is inflamed?
the eccrine ducts.
The eccrine ducts are inflamed. What about some changes up top?
We have a vacuole interface.
There's an interface dermatitis.
Hmm.
Dead red.
Hmm.
Pigment dropout. Vacuolization. How do we put that all together?
Lupus panniculitis.
Lupus panniculitis. And
Yeah.
some people might say lupus profundus because, well, it depends if you view that the same thing as lupus panniculitis or if you just say lupus profundus when there is changes of DLE like lupus up top in addition to the lupus panniculitis. But yes, lupus panniculitis. What kind of stains might you want to order?
For something like this, would you order CD123 or
For what?
mm,
Would you be
asking for
concerned for?
So what are we going to differentiate this from? Lupus panniculitis.
subcutaneous T cell.
Okay. All right. So subcutaneous panniculitis like T-cell lymphoma. What's that?
So you do like a staining of the beta F1, I think.
What's the profile of subcutaneous panniculitis like T-cell lymphoma?
CD8, CD8.
CD8 over CD4. Okay.
Mhm.
So you get a CD4, you get your CD3, CD4, CD8.
And CD30.
Well, you can get a
Probably
CD30.
not.
But what do
Natural killer cells.
Okay, so gamma delta, natural killer or gamma delta cell predominance. So you can get those profiles. Also Ki67 to look for the mitotic rate activity. In lupus panniculitis, Ki67 is not going to show many hotspots. In subcutaneous panniculitis like T-cell lymphoma,
A lot.
Ki67 will be diffusely positive, or it will have these foci of hotspots.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, the other thing you could look at is H&E. Do you notice anything different here?
All these like hyperchromatic,
Yes.
hypernucleated cells surrounding
Yeah.
the fat lobules.
Yeah, they're smudgy, bigger, hyperchromatic. They're atypical lymphocytes. And when they line up around the adipocyte, there's a term for that.
Rimming.
The rimming. Okay, good. What happened here?
These are all like, was it like, would you say like these are like ghost cells or like
Those
cells?
cells. But what do we, when we say, so yes, you're right. These
The
are.
different, the different type of ghost cells that you would see in like proliferating pilar cyst or
You mean
pilomatricoma, my bad.
yes.
Yeah.
So these are not the ghost cells of a pilomatricoma. These are the ghost cells of something else.
Pancreatic.
This is
Pancreatic panniculitis.
Pancreatic panniculitis. Okay. What's pancreatic panniculitis?
Like something to do with like saponification of
Okay.
of the fat cells.
Saponification of the fat from what?
From the, I guess, the leaking of the pancreas or whatever enzymes coming from the pancreas.
Okay, so lipase. Yes, so mainly lipase. There's a technical debate, although you're not responsible for this, to know whether it's a true saponification or not. The technical chemistry definition of saponification is the conversion of fat into glycerol and its free fatty acid with a base. Technically speaking, that's not what's happening here. What's happening here is there's a hydroxyl group from an enzyme, namely the serine from lipase, that acts to do the same thing. But since it's so analogous, you might as well just call it saponification. And so you get these ghost cells, and they have this eosinophilic rim. There's also, but you're right, that is what's happening. What's happening is your triglyceride is being broken down into its constituent components, its free fatty acid and glycerol, by lipase. What's this basophilic areas, though? These basophilic stipplings.
Like calcium or
Calcium, yes. Well, how'd that happen?
something to do with this, like it's a calcium salts
Yes, it is a calcium
from
salt.
the saponification.
Yes. Any idea what kind of calcium salt that might be? So, you ever notice some grime on the shower or the drain after you?
Oh, is that like lye or
Calling
like
it soap scum.
Ever hear of soap scum?
yeah.
What's that?
It's calcium with the precipitates with the basically soap, which is a
Yeah,
fatty
with the free
acid.
fatty acid of the soap.
Yeah.
Exactly. So in this case, with humans, it's your most common saturated fats anyway, are stearate and palmidate. So a common one is calcium stearate. So that's what's happening. This part of area over here is all soap scum. Here is the saponification. And where you have the more basophilic areas, what's happening is divalent cations like magnesium or calcium bind to the free fatty acid components because they have a hydroxyl group. They're negatively charged. The dicationic metals are positively charged, and they form a precipitate. Now it's still an ionic bond. So is von Casa going to stain it?
No, you would want like alizarin or
Von
is that-
Casa stains ionically bound calcium. Calcium phosphate, it's ionic. Calcium stearate is ionic. Calcium palmitate is ionic. So that's why alizarin red has fallen out of favor, because there's not a whole lot of things that you really need it for. And you could just do a Von Casa. It's unfortunate because I like alizarin red. And there are some use cases, but there's not a lot. So yeah, you can, this will light up for Von Casa. You don't need a direct calcium stain. Okay. So just so you know, what? Yeah, you can wash your, what's going on? Why? All right, we're back.
I don't think you have enough tabs open.
No, I
You
need
need a
a few
few
more. So just so you know, you can take this and wash your hands with it. You know, you can clean your hands. You can't. Don't do that. Okay. What do we have here?
Lobular panniculitis.
Lobular panniculitis. By the way, what anything that we could learn about? I know the actions in the subcutis, but anything we might be able to learn from the dermis?
You can see some infiltrate around the, periacrine and periadnexal infiltrate.
Well, there is some infiltrate, but this looks kind of background. Is there anything that's not here? What about up here? What's not here?
You
What do we usually see here in
Vessel.
geriatric dermatology?
solar
Oh,
elastosis.
elastosis.
So no solar elastosis. And what is the configuration of the adnexa? So we met. So yes, good to focus on the adnexa. How close or far apart are they from each other?
Close.
Very close.
So is this a child?
Kid skin. Yes.
Baby.
This is baby skin. Remember, all your adnexa, you're born with it. Maybe she was born with it. Well, she was. In fact, she was born with all of them. And we don't gain anymore. So over time, our adnexas splay apart. But when we're a baby, it looks like almost like some kind of adnexal hamartoma. It's crazy. So we can already get a little clue. And now when we go into the panniculus, what do we see?
Crystals.
Yeah, crystals. So that necrosis of the newborn.
Okay,
Crystal-
what's your differential for crystals like this in the past?
Post-steroid panniculitis.
Post-steroid panniculitis. You mentioned the other one, subcutaneous necrosis of the
the
newborn.
newborn. Yeah.
And
Sclerodema neonatorum.
scleroderma neonatorum, yes. Okay. So is this scleroderma neonatorum?
No,
Why not?
because scleroderma neonatorum doesn't have inflammation.
Correct. Scleroderma neonatorum lacks the infiltrate. Could this be post-steroid panniculitis?
Yeah.
It can. It does have inflammation. And if this child somehow was on steroids and withdrew, it can be. What's the mechanism for subcutaneous fat necrosis of the newborn? Or the what mechanism?
It's thought to be from like therapeutic cooling and newborn that crystallizes the fat.
Yeah, but why is it? Okay, good. Yes. Cool. Comment. And I've seen cases just like that where they have a cooling blanket and you see the area of panniculitis. That's right where the cooling blanket, almost like a weird contact. But hey, look, you can cool a lot of, like, I can put a cooling blanket on. Am I going to get subcutaneous fat necrosis of the newborn? I mean, I felt like I was putting a cooling blanket on this whole day, to be honest with you. Do I have subcutaneous fat necrosis of the newborn?
I think those newborns usually have like a hypoxic induced brain injury. That's why they want to.
That's well, that's not thought to be so. The really sick ones, you see more in Sclerotia neonatorum. Those are the really sick kids.
Oh, I see.
But even if they're not, even if the reason for the cooling is not anything to do with hypoxia, even if it just happens to be, a popsicle that's like near the buccal fat or something, this can happen in a totally healthy baby. So what's different about this fat? What's a determinant of fat solidification?
Cholesterol in the membrane.
It's not cholesterol in the membrane. Well, that could, yes, but one thing is what is saturated and unsaturated fats. That plays a major role. The ratio of saturated unsaturated fats. The more saturated fats you have compared to unsaturated or polyunsaturated fats, then you at a higher temperature, the fat will solidify. And you could think about, like, look, what you guys have all looked at oil, right? If you have a thing of olive oil at room temperature, is it liquid or solid?
Liquid.
Okay. If you have a tub of a tallow in front of you, is it liquid or solid?
Solid.
It's solid. Yeah. What's the main difference?
The difference in saturated and unsaturated fats.
Yes. And so children, babies, for newborns in particular, have a poor regulation of desaturase enzymes. The most important one is delta 9 desaturase, which converts the predominant saturated fatty acids in the fat, which are stearic acid and palmitic acid, into oleic acid, which is an unsaturated fatty acid. So they have a higher ratio of saturated to unsaturated fats, and so they naturally will solidify at a higher temperature. What about post-steroid panniculitis? How does that happen? Why does going off steroids solidify your fat? Isn't that weird? Well, it might just be a very similar thing. So believe it or not, when you give steroids to someone, their desaturase activity increases. Steroids increase delta 9 desaturase. And you naturally have steroids, corticosteroids, that do that. You give a bunch of steroids, does it more. And then when you take someone off steroids, what happens?
It gets better.
Well, they crash, right? They don't have any steroids anymore, and their adrenal glands aren't producing any. So if they don't have any more steroids producing upregulating delta 9 desaturase to desaturate those saturated enzymes, then what happens? More saturated fat, less unsaturated fat. So you give a bunch of steroids to someone, they shift from saturated to unsaturated because that upregulates the desaturase enzyme. Then you withdraw the steroids. Their adrenal glands aren't pumping steroids out anymore because they're used to steroids. And so now they're not doing much of any desaturase activity. So their saturated fat goes up, unsaturated, polyunsaturated fats go down. Very similar mechanism, just caused in different ways. And this?
More lobular.
Okay, lobular. So, and what's the configuration of this infiltrate? It's like
Nodular.
nodular.
Yeah.
Quite nodular. What kind of cells?
Histiocytic and lymph.
Yeah, lymphohistiocytic. And same patient. We do multiple biopsies. So we had our nodular, histiocytic, and lymphocytic, and in some areas, we have what?
Cases necrosis.
Is what?
Necrosis? Cases necrosis
Well, it's a
or
type of
granuloma?
necrosis. There may be some caseous necrosis here, but that's not what I'm highlighting.
Is that a
Okay.
vessel?
It's a vessel.
No.
What's around the vessel?
Fibrin and
Yeah.
a lot of inflammation.
What kind of inflammation?
Lymphocytic or neutrophilic, my bad.
Neutrophilic.
You see
Neutrophils
Is that
and
karyopexis.
neutrophilic dust.
karyorexis?
Yeah. Karyorexis. There's neutrophilic dust here and neutrophils and
Mhm.
fibrin.
Mm-hmm.
That tells you that this is what?
Some sort of vasculitis.
Some sort of vasculitis. There's a nodular vasculitis going on here.
Is this PAN?
I think it's
PAN,
what you
polyarteritis
meant,
nodosa.
yeah.
PAN
Yes.
usually affects larger caliber vessels.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, we both there's a nodular component, poorly formed granulomas. And it kind of looks like a panniculitis, but it's really spillover from a nodular vasculitis. But it's not it's not just medium caliber.
Small as well.
It's small as well.
So it's this EI/NV.
EI, erythema induratum. What was the other one you mentioned?
Nodular vasculitis.
Yes, correct.
Of Bazin. Oh no, it's erythema induratum of
Yes, exactly.
Bazin.
Erythema induratum of Bazin.
Yeah.
So you have these components that are both this histiocytic, poorly formed granulomas. You can even see these multinucleate giant cells over here.
Mm-hmm.
And then some people say in the septa you see this true vasculitis. You don't really have to see it in the septa. Like in these ones here, they're not in the septa, and you see it. You can plus minus see areas of just frank caseous necrosis in erythema induratum as well. By the way, what is erythema induratum?
Usually brought on by like atypical mycobacteria.
Yeah, it's a reaction to mycobacteria. Okay, what about this one?
Damn. So much is going on.
Well, there's a lot going on, but it's really just one cell type.
Lymph.
Is it?
Uh
A lot of schmutz.
Those
Hard to figure.
EOs? You're kind of moving around fast. EOs or
Well, there's you're thinking eos because this degraded collagen is creating a lot of eosinophilic background.
so is
But
it
if we
new?
look over here where that's not the case,
ligands neutrophils?
there's a bunch of neutrophils here. And in fact, there's a whole bunch of degradation of the collagen. All the
Mhm.
septa is breaking apart. Lobules of what remained, what once was fat, are chalking and clumping away from each other.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that happening?
Alpha-1 antitrypsase, trypsin
Okay.
deficiency.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency. Well,
Mhm.
why does that cause this?
So usually, so alpha-1 antitrypsin inhibits antitrypsin. So you have overactivation of like the neutrophils with the proteolytic enzymes.
Yeah, which one?
I don't know.
Neutrophil elastase. It breaks down all this connective tissue. So you have this overactivation of neutrophil elastase, and then that's basically what happens here. So it's a very dense neutrophilic infiltrate. Your connective tissue gets flayed apart. You get separation and chalking apart of your individual lobules. Sometimes they're completely replaced by neutrophils. It's hard to even tell what the remaining lobules are. Pretty destructive. What's going on here?
mixed infiltrate of newts,
Yeah,
EOs, also red blood cells, lymphocytes,
definitely red blood cells. Definitely, there's gonna be definitely like areas. And what's this? This is like a whole pocket of
newts,
newts, back to back newts. What do we
an
call
abscess.
that? An abscess.
Hmm.
Okay, and I guess they're trying to show that there's a little extension into the panniculus here.
But not much. Like, is this
Yeah.
still a
Yeah.
panniculitis?
Not, yeah, it's not even really making its way to a panniculitis. I guess they just put it in there to just make the point that this can be a panniculitis. But in this case, it's really not deep enough. So let's say I told you that this was a crazy patient. This was a little more of a psych on the psychiatric side. What might we be thinking?
You think like a factitial?
Factitial.
Mm.
Like,
What
did they
kind of
inject
things?
something
Yeah.
which is causing an abscess? Did they
What-
inject something into the dermis, like deep down, that's
Yeah.
causing yeah.
What kind of
I don't-
things have patients with factitial panniculitis injected into themselves?
Fecal material.
Stool.
Fecal material. Okay, so you grow out a poly culture, a lot E. coli and whatnot, what have you. What if you grow out a monoculture of group E strep? This also was a case, by the way.
Group B
Big-
strep. I mean, I'm thinking like neonatal, something related to.
Well, why do we care about group E strep with neonatal stuff?
I just remember that you have to treat. I don't meningitis, maybe.
Yeah, you gotta prevent it. It's prophylactic.
Yeah,
Where do the babies
that's
get it from?
the mom.
Yeah, the vaginal canal.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
growing out of monoculture, group E strep, there was a patient who injected her own vaginal secretions and got a factitial panniculitis from that. And the monoculture grew out of a culture grew out of monoculture of the group E strep. Okay. What do we have? Well, what do we have up top?
Some paravascular infiltrate.
Not a lot. We got some.
Yeah, it's
But-
minimal. It's not a lot. It's not very robust.
But more importantly,
The epidermis looks like not necrotic, but like the epidermis looks weird. Maybe necrotic, maybe atrophied a little bit.
not
Maybe.
quite atrophy. Not in some areas, like maybe it's a little vacuolization, but looks viable. And in some areas, not really atrophied. It might be hypertrophied, if anything.
Did you see there's like some pallor or
Well, what are all these? What's all this?
Or small blood vessels, angio something.
There's angioplasia. There's a lot of it. Do we normally have like all of these vessels like all the way up top?
no? Oh, is
No.
this like stasis germ?
Yeah, and in fact, you see this?
Pigment dropout, hemosiderin.
It might be hemosiderin. There's a little blood around there. So there's stasis derm here.
Mm-hmm.
Would you
Stasis
say that the
changes up top.
dermis is more fibrotic also?
There
than
is something
normal, or
going
is-
on in the dermis. I agree. In fact, it's going a little further down than just the dermis.
It's going to lead to the fat.
Okay, so what is going on? What's this?
Lipodermatosclerosis.
Lipodermatosclerosis. What gave that away?
It's like this like window pane.
Window pane. Some might call this an arabesque pattern.
Yeah.
Whatever name you want to tie to that, just burn this pattern in your mind.
It's those little like branchy things
Yes.
in the fat. Okay, arabesque. Got it.
Those are the key giveaways. So this type of lipomembranous change into an arabesque pattern, and stasis changes up top. Those two together, your default diagnosis until proven otherwise is lipodermatosclerosis. As we went over already, what might this be? and here,
Calcium.
and here, and here.
Calcium.
Calcium. All right. And in the if they're in the eensy beensy, teensy weensy little vessels,
Plexus.
then it's
Calciphylaxis.
calciphylaxis. Okay. And what do we have here? Primarily a
Septal panniculitis.
septal panniculitis
Mm-hmm.
with what type of cells?
Histiocytic and lymph and some newt.
Okay, mixed infiltrate with multinucleated giant cells. What's your diagnosis?
EN.
EN, good. And if the erythema nodosum comes with these things, which
How is
are
that?
Oh, are those leprosy?
globi.
Yes.
Globi,
Globi.
so
Then it's erythema.
Nodosum leprosum,
Leprosum.
which is
Erythema
the
nodosum leprosum.
type 2 reactional state in leprosy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like look. You have to learn about Lucio's and okay, all that good stuff. Now, if you have a septal panniculitis, one thing you can see is this.
Oh, those are the multinucleated giant cells.
Radially arranged around a
Is it got Mesh granuloma?
yeah, Meischer's granuloma. What's a Meischer's granuloma?
Remember the naked? Is it naked granuloma though?
It is naked or dressed is not part of the definition of Meischer's granuloma. A Meischer's granuloma is very simplistically defined as histiocytes radially arranged around a central cleft. See that? Well-defined aggregates of histiocytes surrounding a central cleft, so-called Meischer's granuloma, a histologic hallmark of erythema nodosum. So here's another one. Okay. And this one,
Septal again.
septal
Mixed.
and lobular. Okay. And the cell is
Yeah.
everything EO. Full-blown EOs. Back to back.
This is an eosinophilic panniculitis.
Eosinophilic panniculitis. Why do people get eosinophilic panniculitis? That's kind of weird.
A few different things. You can get it from like bug bite or drug,
Okay,
or
bite.
hyper eosinophilic syndrome.
Hypereosinophilic syndrome is another one. So we got two more.
Strauss.
Church-Strauss. Yep.
Parasites.
Parasites. Those are the four things you got to know. Arthropod assault, hypereosinophilic syndrome, Church-Strauss, which is somehow politically incorrect now, and the correct terminology is
EGPA.
EGPA.
I think Churg and Strauss were
They were
pathologists at
innocent!
Sinai. No, they're
They were-
at Sinai.
Yes, they were Sinai physicians, and they were innocent, just for the record, in case anyone's watching this. They were not Nazis. Okay, they never were. But their name sounded German enough, so hey, with enough cancel culture, you cancel anyone. So anyway, they got canceled too. Anyway,
I have a question. Is
Yeah.
eosinophilic fasciitis also part of the cause for this?
no. In eosinophilic fasciitis, do you typically even see eosinophils?
No.
No, the one I showed you, we got lucky because there was so much blood from the hemorrhagic biopsy, it spilled over into it. Because where are the eosinophils in eosinophilic fasciitis?
In the blood.
In the peripheral blood.
So what differentiates this? This is the one example where you have EOs everywhere, basically,
This is this is a panniculitis, and the
with
cell,
EOs.
the predominant cell from that we never saw in any other example.
Yeah,
It's
true.
just all EOs.
And is Church-Strauss?
Mhm.
Oh, does Church-Strauss always have a panniculitis?
No, It does not.
So what if the fat was not involved and you just had like a more superficial biopsy?
Of Church-Strauss,
Yeah, what would it look
then
like?
you would just see the vasculitic. You would see the vasculitic component. Then
But would
maybe
it
some
still
flame
be
figures.
eosinophilic? Yes. Okay,
Yes,
so flame
yeah,
fingers.
you could see flame figures in Church-Strauss if there's a lot
And
of
how do you
eosinophils degranulating. You can see
how do you
it.
differentiate that from Wells?
So the vasculitis.
Okay. So Wells would just be the flame figures and EOs everywhere, pretty
Figures,
much.
like, yep, because it's an eosinophilic. It is an eosinophilic process, but
Infiltrate.
it's an eosinophilic cellulitis basically as well.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
it's not an eosinophilic
Without
vasculitis.
vasculitis. The
Correct.
only eosinophilic vasculitis for our purposes is Church-Strauss.
Well, the eosinophilic vasculitis can be found in Church-Strauss. But there are other so eosinophilic so urticarial vasculitis also has eosinophils, but also has neutrophils.
Right.
Like that.
Yeah. But that kind of has a more nothing pattern, right?
It will be a lot. Urticaria has a nothing pattern. Urticarial vasculitis does not have a nothing pattern.
Right.
So the point, so Wells is not, so flame figure is not specific for Wells. You can see it in Wells, and that you have to think about it in Wells. But there are a number of things that cause flame figures. Church-Strauss causes flame figures. Arthropod bites cause flame figures. Parasites you can get flame figures around parasites. All this means eosinophilic panniculitis is that there's a bunch of eosinophils in the panniculus causing the inflammation. That's it. And then you have a differential for the 4 things you have to think about that cause it. Hypereosinophilic syndrome, arthropod assault, the helminths or parasites, and Church-Strauss. Not all of any of those things, by the way, cause an eosinophilic panniculitis. Definitely, guaranteed. You can get an arthropod assault, and you're not guaranteed to get an eosinophilic panniculitis. You can have a parasite, and you're not guaranteed to get an eosinophilic panniculitis. But sometimes you do. And when you do see it, those are the things to think about. Make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, that's all we have for panniculitis today. We'll let you off early because for some reason we had didactics today. So good job, everyone.
Thank you, Avi. Merry Christmas.
Thanks, Avi.
Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Solstice, whatever you
Happy
guys celebrate.
holidays.
Avi, I have a quick question.
Yeah, what's up?
When/are you going to do the core review lecture?
Didn't they put me on the schedule for that? I thought that
Yeah.
Probably.
I thought
Do you
think
know when it
it's-
is, Nick?
I have it open. It looks like February 6th.
February.
there it is.
Oh, Thursday, like during regular didactics,
Yeah.
not at night. Okay, cool.
All right, well then it'll be then.
Perfect. Okay,
All right.
sounds
night,
good.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, Avi.